Hi everyone, Julien here, nurse practitioner for Danesthetics Medical, and this is my clinic here in Ottawa, Canada. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I went from here to here. And we're actually going to divide this video into 3 parts. The first part, we're going to be focusing on the cheeks and tear troughs, and I'm going to show you guys everything, how I draw everything out, and also my measurements that are important for you. Stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss this. So before I begin, I always want to review a little bit of anatomy just to make sure you're safe out there. And there are 2 major arteries that I want to avoid hitting. It's going to be my facial artery, which becomes the angular artery. And this is the most important artery that I want to avoid. The reason why is because it connects to the dorsal nasal artery and it goes right to the eye. That artery usually runs superficially. And when I say usually, it's about 98 to 99% of the time. It's going to be superficial once it becomes more medial of this iris. But it can lie anywhere from here to here. So as long as we're injecting deep, we know that we can avoid hitting that. Check. The second artery you want to avoid is going to be the infraorbital artery. It runs anywhere from 1 to 1.5 centimeters below this rim right here, and it's usually midline with the medial part of your iris. Now, what's good to know about this artery is that it runs deep and it doesn't connect with the facial artery, so you don't have to worry about blindness. It does connect all the way down to the carotid, and I still want to avoid hitting it, so how can we do that? Well, that artery actually has a protective bony hub over it, and it forces the artery to run down and then out. So as long as I'm coming from the side, usually that needle or the cannula is going to hit that bony rim. It's not going to go directly into the foramen itself. So another reason why I enjoy using a cannula is because I can just bump this thing out of the way and I don't really have to worry about placing my needle directly into it. So cannula, I want to run deep and I want to come from the side. The next thing I'm thinking about are all the tissues in the face and why I want to inject deeply, and I'm just going to cover that quickly for you guys. So basically, first layer is the skin, and especially around the eyes. You don't really want to place anything too superficially here, and if so, maybe a drop of it, nothing more, because anything else will show lumps. You're going to see some Tyndall effect, which means like a dark bluish hue of the filler. It looks weird, looks funny. You don't want that. So stay away from placing anything too superficially around the eyes. Next is your superficial fat pad that's just underneath the skin. That superficial fat pad actually never goes away. It swells and it drops with time. A good example is someone who's 80 or 90 years old, they're frail, but their cheeks are really puffy and heavy. That's because this stuff doesn't go away, it just swells up. So avoid placing filler here because all it's going to do is collect there and never really go away. The other thing too is that we do have a lymphatic drainage system that runs superficially, collects all the debris, the dirt, the bacteria, and brings it down to our lymph nodes. And if you place too much filler superficially, you can block that off and cause some edema. So avoid doing that. Underneath that is a membrane called SMAS, and then underneath that you have the muscle, and then finally at the very bottom you have your deep fat pads. This is the stuff that we lose, and this is the stuff that hollows out our face as we mature. The bonus of this is that the deep fat pads are non-mobile. So if you place filler there, it's not going to go anywhere. You don't have the risk of migration. And at the same time, you have all the benefit of all the other tissues on top of it, preventing the illusion of having lumps. So stay deep. Now we're into the good stuff, the measurements and the drawings. Let's start off with the orbicularis retaining ligament right here. There's a test that I do before I do anybody's tear trough. I place my finger here, and if it improves the tear trough, great. If it doesn't, then I won't touch it. It's just going to accentuate that ligament even more, and it's going to make them look even worse. So remember that. Sometimes we end up having tear trough deformity, not because of the tear trough itself, but because we've lost fat right here in the mid-face. This is the first place on the face that we actually lose fat, and it starts around the age of 25 to 35. So what I do is I actually draw out. I take a peek exactly where it is, and I draw out where that hollowing is. And I'm following my retaining ligament, and I'm going to make sure that that hollowing stays nice and high. If they have a hollowing that goes all the way down here, don't try and fill it. It's not gonna look good because they're gonna be bottom heavy. Try and keep that filler nice and high, right up against the bone. And then after that, what I wanna do is I wanna take a peek here. Do they need anything? This client didn't really have any hollowing. Here, she actually had like a little bit of a fat pad, so I can mask it by placing filler in front of it and behind it. Next, what I want to do is I want to find my apex for the cheek, and I can do that by taking my golden means calipers. I'm going to go between the eyes. That's my intercanthal distance, which is 42. This is the 1. This is going to be 1.618, and that should be around where the apex is if I want to have someone's lateral cheek feminized. That's what I'm going to do, so that's the point for that as well. The other thing that I do is I take the lateral part, or the tail of the eyebrow, drop it straight down, take the upper ala of the nose and cross it with the upper tragus, and that's also where I'm going to find it. So now that I've highlighted that, you'll see I've placed a little X there, and then I want to make sure that I envision wherever I'm placing my filler on this cheek, almost like a Nike swoosh, okay? So this tip of the Nike swoosh starts here, goes down, and then up. And how far up and how angle, it really depends on the zygoma. I try, which is the bone here, I try and just match the angle of the zygoma on that client. Some are a little bit more arched, some of them are a little straighter, but whatever it is, I'm going to follow that path. I don't want to change their natural anatomy, I just want to enhance it a little bit. All right, now finally we are into the tear troughs, and this is my approach. Use the same injection point, go in, I want to be underneath the muscle, and then I'm going to reach all the way to the end until I feel some resistance. Not only that, I'm going to keep my finger here as a smart finger, and I want to make sure that I'm feeling that retaining ligament. I almost want to feel some resistance there, and that's telling me that I can't go any further, which is great, guides me, and that finger is going to make sure that I'm also being safe. I place very minute aliquots, like very tiny little drops right along here. And then after that, I do it all the way into the end. I come back. At this point, I usually place like 0.1, and then I massage it in gently, and I want to take a peek and see how it looks. And if it looks like it needs more, then I'll go ahead and I'll do the same thing over again. After that, whenever it's said and done, if I think it would benefit from it, I do actually take my cannula back out, put it back in superficially, and I'm going to place a very thin drop right at the entrance of the tear trough. And when I say a thin drop, it's minute. And the reason why I do that is because it ties it in nicely, it gives an overall better result, and it's not enough product to cause an obstruction or any other issues. If you're placing a lot of the product superficially, that's whenever you get issues such as Tyndall and filler migration and this bumping and all that other stuff. So as long as it's at the very end, and you place a thin little drop, you know, the cherry on top, that's my approach. And this is how I got this client looking this way. So remember, this is part 1 of the series of 3. Next time we're going to be talking about nasolabial folds, the ergotrid, the lips, marionettes, and also how I treat the chin. Stay tuned for that. Until the next time, take care of yourselves, exercise daily, and please be nice to absolutely everyone. Take care.